Ursula Calvert's there. And welcome to all the participants. So the way we're going to run this, it's a little bit as we've done it around the table physically before, is everybody gets to speak to their submission for 5 minutes and we all listen to each other, and then we're actually open to have a debate. If you want to ask questions, and there hopefully will be time, there's a little button where you can put your hand up. I don't know how many of you, we're all probably really familiar with Zoom now, but down in the, which button would it be? Reactions. You can raise your hand and then I see that and I can kind of, say when it's your turn to ask a question. We'll try and keep everything moving quite quickly so that we get as much chance to share and hear people's views as possible. So I'd like to, the order I've got is actually Russell and then Nicole, then Steve, David, and then Alan. So Russell, I'd like to invite you to speak to us. And I'll put my hand up when you're getting towards your 5 minutes. Thank you. You'll need to unmute, Russell.
Thanks very much for the opportunity. And first, I want to congratulate the Council on its forward-looking cycling policies. The decision to increase the amount of money that was that's allocated to cycling, I think, is very forward-looking. And I congratulate you all on that. I think it's absolutely essential that we close the gap between Niwa and Cobham Drive. It makes absolutely no sense to have that hole because we know that people will be attracted to continuous safe cycling routes. And if they're disturbed and people have to come and go on the road, that is potentially dangerous. And I know that well, because I ride that particular part of the cycling network 3 or 4 times a week in my journey from the eastern suburbs to the central city. So yes, to the new path. It fixes the gap in the cycling network, which is very exciting to me and to many. It also will improve the experience for pedestrians, and there are more and more pedestrians using that seaside link. As I ride, I see more and more cyclists and pedestrians, and it's very encouraging to see that. No to a shared path. I think it's simply not adequate to meet the demand, and it's less safe than separate paths. We've got separate paths on Cobham Drive there. They're as good as any in the country, and I think we should continue that round to Cobham Drive. I've done some research since I did my written submission. I've been around the Niwa seaside link, and I think that's a nice to have, but I think it's not as good, direct, or as quick, and therefore as user-friendly as a direct route along where the footpath is now. I think that's also better for the people who have businesses on that street, in that they'll have all those people coming past them, whereas if they go around the edge of the water, they will not have that. So it's a nice to have around the edge of the water, but I don't think that's the primary path. I'm a keen advocate for climate change and very much concerned about the ecological degradation that we're going through. So I see bike lanes as climate action, strong climate action, no greenhouse gases, good for health. I can't see any downside for cycling, particularly now that we've got electric bikes. I'm rather into my 8th decade. I rode a normal muscle bike for centuries, no, not centuries, decades, it seems like centuries, decades, but now I'm on an electric bike, and they are God's gift to mankind. I can't speak too highly about them, and they've got a huge potential in windy and mountainous, and really at least Wellington. We need to cope for this onrush of electric bikes. We know that bike lanes are great for local businesses. We've got plenty of research to show us that cafes, etc., do better when people are walking past rather than in their cars where they can't shop. The council can work with the recreational users of the marina. There's a huge area there of public land where people can park. So I think they should work with the yacht clubs and those who use the marina to provide adequate, very adequate parking for those who want to use that to visit the businesses on the part of that road by Greta Point. So that's basically my talk to you, and I just end by once again thanking the council for the brilliant job that you're doing with biking. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. And my apologies, I should have also acknowledged Liz Kelly, who's our rep from Ngāti Toa. And thanks for being here, Liz. Right, and we also do have some staff. Thank you, Ori. Thank you, Russell. Next up is Nicole. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Councillor, or Deputy Mayor, and thank you to all the councillors that have attended today and to those panellists who are also submitting. I just note though that, there was a hand up and it's gone back down again. So I wondered whether Councillor Nicola Young wanted to ask a question of the last submitter. No? Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I live in Haitaitai. I've lived here for 21 years and my husband has lived here for 38 years. We have a family of 4 grown-up children, and they have gone to school in this area and in the eastern suburbs for their secondary education as well. We are members of the Evans Bay Yacht Club, and we have a mooring out in the bay as well for a launch that we have there. During the summertime, it's appreciated by us how many people actually use Haitaitai Beach and the facility of being able to park in that area. What's really stood out for us is the number of young families that are in the area that use the beach and use the Cog Park area. The majority of those people need to drive to the beach. The reason being that they've got young kids, they've got picnics, they've got their things, but they also live on Mount Victoria. So while it's okay to say that people might be able to walk to the beach, for the young with young children and for the elderly, it could actually be quite difficult for them to get back home again. One of the other concerns that I have, of course, is if we have a drop-off point at Haitaitai Beach about young kids or belongings being left on the side, while a parent then has to go look for a park, which could be way down the other end by Cobham Drive. That just makes it almost impossible to be able to actually use that beach. So while I appreciate that we want to make sure that we can have a cycle lane so we can join up all around Oriental Parade to Cobham Drive, when we look at perhaps losing 45% of car parks, including the residential car parks, then I have concerns about what that's actually going to have as an effect on the area. One of the other concerns that I have is where the new bus stops are looking to be going in, because they actually appear to be going in where the exit parts are for certain areas, such as Niwa, Evans Bay Yacht Club, for example. Now that's to get out of Evans Bay Yacht Club is actually quite difficult if there's a lot of traffic, because the ability to see some distance is hindered often because of the corners. So once you put a bus stop at some of these areas, it's actually going to stop the vision of the people trying to get out of those areas as well. And I think that's quite dangerous. I'm also mindful of the fact that State Highway 1 does not allow dangerous goods to be travelling through the tunnel. So all of those trucks, as well as the buses, will be going around the bays. Now, when that occurs, and you're saying that if we don't have car parks, that it would make the vision better, I actually think that we'll have a concern if we have dangerous goods going around a smaller portion of road. And I think that we need to address that, because that is the only route that those goods can take around into the eastern suburbs. So I think that needs careful consideration as well. Just removing cars isn't going to do it. You're actually encroaching onto the road and still making the road smaller, regardless of whether there's vehicles parked there or not. So I'd like the council to actually be more mindful about where the exits are and where the bus stops are going to be. I think that's really quite important. I also think that perhaps looking at your strategy on your recreation strategy, I'm looking at what you've published in the executive summary that says you want to encourage participation in a way that increases overall well-being. Well, I think that means allowing everybody the opportunity to access the facilities that we have along Evans Bay. When I'm thinking of the Evans Bay Yacht Club, for example, we will have restricted parking, 3 hours in some places. People don't go onto boats for 3 hours. They go onto boats for a day. And when we have the likes of Evans Bay Yacht Club, who are teaching young children how to sail successfully, we're actually potentially hindering the opportunity for recreational access to a certain part of Wellington, which is known for their sailing, because we are in favour of cycling. I think that there could be an opportunity to ensure that we can do both, that we can have the access, we can have safe access, we can have cycling, and we can have a way that people can actually go and enjoy the water around Wellington without having to be restricted in the timeframes that they may have imposed on them just for parking. And saying that water activity usually requires a vehicle to transport that activity, whether it be kayaking, canoeing, stuff like that, they need to get or use vehicles to be able to get to the water. So I think that there needs to be a bit more compromise in how we get the cycle lane, but also allow people to be able to use those facilities and park their vehicles to do so. So that's my submission, and I thank you for the opportunity for me to be able to speak to you today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. That was very articulate and a lot of really good points, which I've made notes of, and I'm sure the other councillors and our Liz Kelly, our rep's been listening as well. We'll save all the questions till the end. So Nicola, I see you have got, Councillor Young, I see you have got a hand up, but we'll keep it till the end. Next up is Steve. Welcome, Steve. You just need to unmute.
You would think after 2 years we would sort it. Sorry about that, and kia ora koutou. Look, I am a local Haitaito resident. I live up in River Road, which sort of overlooks Haitaito Beach. I'm a regular cyclist. I commute to work around the bays, wind dependent, otherwise I go over the hill. And I have a couple of dogs that I'm walking pretty much around that area every day. So I'm pretty familiar with the area, and I'm pretty familiar with the use of the area. And I'm very supportive of the provisions you're looking to put in for cycling. It is, as Russell mentioned, it's kind of a no-brainer. It would be idiotic not to join Cobham Drive to the rest of the cycle route that goes as far as Niwa. I have been comfortable riding on the road for many years because I'm a long-time cyclist, but I know many aren't. Many really will only ride if they feel safe, and they'll only feel safe if there's a fully protected cycleway, as has been established in Cobham Drive, as has been established most of the way around the bays. So we'll kind of be a laughingstock if we don't find a way to get this completed. And so that's kind of my main message here is let's try and find a way to get this done. I totally respect the resident and marina and beach users issues around parking, because I'm ashamed to admit sometimes we will drive down the hill to get the kids down to the beach, and there are minimal parks, so we've got to find a solution. But ultimately that solution cannot be at the expense of a fully segregated cycleway, because we just need to acknowledge that transport is changing, the way people move around is changing, cycling is already increasing rapidly in Wellington. With more and more protected cycleways, it'll just accelerate, and you don't have to look far around the world to see the success of full cycling infrastructure. So I support the council's initiative and intent here, but I also recognise, I read the Marina submission, and I'm fully sympathetic to their issues, and hope we can come to some sort of compromise position that can work for both parties. One of the things I've been thinking about is that whole marina area. There's a lot of space. There's certainly a lot of space for resident parking. You could, and I don't understand the legalities, and I'll be open in the question time for maybe the officials or councillors to help us understand what are the rules for parking and what use can be put to that marina area. But that stretch from the Evans Bay Yacht Club all the way to the Zephyr meter is a large expanse of space. There's a lot of potential there. And one of the things I've noticed, two things really. One is, whilst the marina has permanent parking for boats and yachts, I fully understand that. I walk past those yachts nearly every day, and half of them are rotting into the concrete. Like, I think there's a lot of misuse or poor use of area space there. And I wonder, getting alongside the marina and supporting some of those boat users to potentially move those boats, because they're not going anywhere on the water anytime soon. And Nicole, you may have noticed this as well. You know, some users of boats don't take them out as often as they might want to. And so I do feel there's probably some space there. You could just shift some of those boats around and make some space for parking for the marina on boating days, where they've noted that they need the parking area they currently have to set up boats and things. So I think there might be a potential there to use that. And then at the other end where the camper vans are, I think there might be an opportunity there. There's so much space to do more parking. I just don't know what the rules are that you have there and what might be holding that. So I'll be open to hearing more about that. And the other thing I'd note is that the current resident parking, as I walk along the pavement, there's a lot of camper vans permanently parked on that path. There's a lot of there's the booze buses. There's one or two of them there permanently. But by the booze buses, I mean, they're painted orange. Yeah, they're basically booze buses though, right? They're party buses. And there's a couple of trailers there that are parked pretty permanently. Now, they might be resident trailers, but you know, in this changing world, you don't necessarily get to park your trailer permanently outside your house anymore. I don't think that's a right. That's kind of, you know, possible at the moment, but maybe it won't be possible permanently. But if we can open up the marina, then great. Let's make use of that space for residents and for occasional users of the beach and others. And the last point I'll make is that as a dog walker, a shared footpath does not work. Russell mentioned the increasing electric bikers. They are tearing around at 30 k's plus. And on a pavement with a couple of dogs, whilst they're on leads, they only have to move out 2 feet to one side, and I won't hear a cyclist coming at that speed, and all sorts of mess can occur. And I've been in those situations where I've had to pull a dog back. So shared spaces like that don't work anymore with electric bikes. So that'll be my last point, but thanks for the opportunity, and particularly for the officials who made this route possible for submitting. Thanks very much, because I'm currently down in Alexandra helping a mate fence. So I wouldn't have been able to do this if you hadn't set this up. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Steve. And it's good that you can, you know, so well see both sort of sides that are present here. And I hope that these conversations are about trying to find the best fit and compromise. Right, thank you. We will move to, now I had down David Taylor, but I might have got the name wrong because we've actually got Ken who's joined us. So Ken, are you ready to submit?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah,
kia ora koutou.
We can't quite see. Oh, well, now we can. That's
there
better.
You go. How's that? I'll just sorry, I was on the way back from a meeting I was in with Netball Wellington, so potentially doing some work with them. But kia ora, Laurie. Kia ora, Sarah. Kia ora, Councillor Diane Calvert. I have met you. Kia ora, Nicole, and Russell, Alan, Steve. Thanks for your comments, Steve. Nicole, I came in at the end of yours, and I'm thinking that I probably don't want to sort of go over the ground that you were talking about at the end of your submission, so I'll keep mine very specific if I can. But I haven't been able to track down my actual original submission. So,
so Ken, are you representing an organisation?
Nope.
Okay.
Just myself. And I've never done this before, to be honest. So that's be gentle, please. But I'm interested. I'm just speaking without any hats on, apart from as an individual who uses Haitatai Beach every now and again just to go for a little swim and sit on the beach and you know, relax and maybe read a book. And I drive there, and I live in Mount Cook, and I drive there because it's just the easiest way to get there. I'm not a biker. For various reasons, I do own a bike, but it's somewhere else, and I don't bike in Wellington. So, you know, getting to the beach is by car is the way I do it. And I did see in the plan about the 28 car parks. I'm pretty sure it's 28 around that beach area being taken away for the cycleway. I don't have any issues with the cycleway, so I'm not going to really go through it all. It is what it is. Yeah, we can talk all day about the use of it and potential use and how necessary. That's not part of my submission at all. But really what I care about is access to that little beach. And yeah, Haitatai Beach has been used by the public for, oh God, I don't know how many years. You've got photos going back 100 years, I think, of people using that particular area to swim. It's got facilities to change and and loos, and for that reason the council maintains it, I guess, to enable people to go to the beach and change. But I think access to that beach for disabled people especially is going to be quite limited. In fact, it's probably, without 28 parks or any parks at all, it'll be impossible. So that's the concern I have, and that I guess I'm wearing a hat with the I care about accessibility to facilities for people. I can park my car down at Evans Bay and walk if I have to Haitara Beach. I'm well capable of doing that. But I think disabled people not having access to the Haitara Beach, which is a nice safe beach for them to go to, is going to be probably impossible with the current plan. Just a bit more about Haitara Beach. Is one of the few that has its own special character. It's the only beach in Wellington where there is built-in seating at the top of the beach. It's actually built into the pavement, so you can sit there and not have to sit on the sand and get sand all over the place. So it has that sort of special character, and I think just the plan as it sits with me when I saw it, it didn't think. I thought, okay, well, how are people going to be able to get to it if they're not walking and they're not cycling?
Well, thank you, Ken. That's very I actually share some of those concerns too, because I love Haitara Beach. Yeah, and it is a special little beach.
I think so. It's got a lot of character, a lot of history, as I said, and people. I don't know the use of it by disabled people. I've got no stats or data on anything like that. It just occurred to me, and I never even thought of submitting in this way, but I think I hit the wrong button.
Good on you.
I might as well just continue and have a go. Oh,
yeah, thank you very much, Ken. It's really good to hear from you. And now we have Ellen from Living Streets.
Yeah, thank you.
So Ellen, because it's an organisation, you do get a bit longer.
Kia ora koutou, ko Ellen Blaker ho, ko koutou toi whanganuiatara kia Living Streets Aotearoa. So I am representing a group here, the Pedestrian Advocacy Group, which is a national group, and I'm the Wellington coordinator. And so we want to see better facilities for people who are pedestrians, so that's people on foot and in wheelchairs. And the round the bays is what us Wellingtonians call that bit, is a great walk. It's been a walk that people have done for years and years and years, and it's just a fantastic place. It's about an hour from Oriental Bay around to Kilburnie, so it's an easy walk for some people to do. It's easy because it's flat. It's by the sea, so you get your nice green time and blue time as you go through some of those parks as well. And so I think it's a really important place for all of Wellington to have access to and to be able to use it easily. So we support the creation of separated paths. It's, as Russell said, the shared paths don't work. They never work in towns, and they only work in places like maybe if you're walking along a riverbank. The Hutt River is quite a good example of a shared path that's appropriate, but mostly sharing paths with fast-moving vehicles is just unpleasant, and it's not accessible for people who are easily put off by fast-moving vehicles, such as older people who have low vision and are blind. So it's really good that it's been separated, but it's not a very good design. So my comments really relate to more about some of the design about it, because while the idea of having a separated path is fantastic, it has to be done well for it to be effective. So that's where my comments are mostly relating to. So there has been quite a big footpath there at one a long time ago. You can see that lovely brick edge that's along some of that part by the marina and round there. So nice and wide, so lots of people can walk side by side. So what the design is showing us is that there's only going to be a 2 metre wide footpath, which is just enough space for 2 people to walk side by side, going in the same direction. So you can imagine that people walking along here with the new design will have to go in single file. So it's kind of like marching and exercise, isn't it? So you're taking away some of that nice, we're at the beach, we're just going for a stroll along, and it's going to be more this kind of marching along with people on their e-bikes, as we've just heard, going zooming past. So, or when you've got your dog, having to worry about your dog, or if you're trying to walk there with little kids, you've got to hang on to them, because there is nothing separating you from the bikeway. So, I think that we definitely need to think about some of those, how wide some of that footpath is, and see if we can't make it better, or do some separation between the footpath and the bike lane. So one of our blind members was saying that the least that we should have along that that bit of path all the way along, right around the bays, is there should be some kind of tactile marking on between where the pedestrians walk and where the bikes go. So you can have sort of a little texture on your footpath that they can feel with their cane or with your foot, so that you know that you're in the right place. So that would be the minimum improvement that's required to make it accessible for people. So 2 meters is really way too narrow for that kind of path. We know that hundreds of people go around there every lunchtime, running and walking and things like that, and that it's quite an important commuter route. So we want trying to encourage more people to both walk and to cycle around there. I don't want to go into too much detail on some of the technical bits, but anyway. And so the other key thing that as far as, I mean, we really like the new pedestrian crossings. They're going to be improved because they'll have zebra crossings and make it easier for people to get across the road. So I think we're all adult, fit and able people that we can run across the road quite easily. We can make that assessment and cross. But if you're older, or if especially children, shouldn't be encouraged to do that. They should use proper zebra crossings where all the vehicles have to stop. So we really support some of those improvements. And would just mention the bus stops as well, that they're moving some of those bus stops. So I think that we want to be really careful about moving bus stops, that people who use buses can still access where they need to get to. I know that number 24 route is used for people going to work and coming home. And you're talking about being able to access the beach. Well, I think people can walk down that hill relatively easy. When I was in the Haitaitai, we used to walk down there, but you'd look at going back up when you're going home and think, oh, I wish there was another way. So improving some of the public transport around the bays would be quite useful too, particularly for weekends. And, I'm sure they can put more buses on for sunny days. That would be quite important. And so some of those bus stops have been relocated, and I think there's at least one anyway, that where you get on and off the bus directly from the bike lane, which, as we've seen on Victoria Street, is a really poor design, as it makes people feel unsafe when they're getting on and off buses. And we, cyclists, when they're zooming along, aren't really watching out for people doing other activities like that, and people getting on and off buses are just busy getting on and off buses. So I think there's been quite a few issues with that sort of design. And one of the things that I'm particularly concerned about is that all around the bays, the footpath has been made concrete. And as I understand it, it's so that we can tell the difference between where the footpath is and where the bike lane bit is. But concrete, as you know, and anybody who runs will know this, is really hard, and it's rigid and it's hard to walk on. So as I noticed this as I'm getting older, that walking along on concrete your feet get tired and it's really unpleasant. So this is a 1 hour, 5 kilometre walk from Oriental Bay to Kilburnie on concrete, whereas before it used to be on asphalt, which is a much better surface to walk on. So I would really like to see that we stop using concrete for footpaths altogether, and we stick with the asphalt where we need it, where people need to have a good walking surface. People walking along here are on that path for much longer than people biking or in cars. So it should be the best experience for people walking. And And I think, as I mentioned, there's other ways you can distinguish between what's the footpath and what's the bike path, preferably by making a better separation between the two of them. I think it's right to take some of those car parks out. That there is a lot of car parking there, and when I go around there, quite often a lot of it's empty. So, but getting your kids to the beach is quite an important factor.
Okay. Ellen, can I ask you to maybe just make your last point or two, because we then can have some time for general questions.
If I had my 5 minutes.
Probably, yes, a little bit more as well, because of you being an organisation. But if you've got a last point or two.
Okay, so some of the other things that we need to see all the way along here, this is the 1 hour walk, is some better seating with backs for people who need to sit back, older people, and with hand rests so that people can get up and down easily, and preferably not metal because they're cold. And it would be really good to see, make sure that we keep some of those water fountains that are at the different beaches as well, so that there's enough of those. And that's most of the points. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's great. Now, time for questions. So we've had Nicola, you can start off. And again, just reminding you, if you want to ask a question, use the reaction button. And hopefully, if we keep the questions snappy-ish, and anyone can ask questions of anyone. It's a conversation more than an interrogation. Nicola.
Okay, so my question really goes back to Russell, as Nicole pointed out at the time. So Russell, I did my first swimming lessons at Ātautae Beach. In fact, we started on the green verge opposite to learn our arm motions. I did my 5 yards water skills, etc. So my mother used to take us down from the western slopes of Mount Victoria with 5 children, and the only way she could do it would be by car. Now, of course, I've learned to swim a bit better since then. But I'm also concerned, like, the Sea Scouts are there, and my brother was a Sea Scout, which was helpful, and of course the sailing people. So I'm just wondering, like, I totally accept it's a great place for a separated or a bike, cycle lane. Be a great place, especially if the wind is behind you. It's always good going one way on that road if you're cycling, not the other way. But what's the solution? Because there are some people, like my mother would never have taken us there if we had to walk or bicycle, because 5 unruly children, except for me, I was a paragon, would be just so difficult, and taking thermos, drinks, sandwiches, etc. Some things just require the benefits of things like cars. So what's your solution, Russell?
My solution is drop people off and then go and park in the marina.
Yes, but we're talking about small children. You can't just leave small children to run, like one of us might have got killed. It could have been me, Russell. Think about the effect on local government.
But there were 4 of you, weren't there? An older one and younger ones?
There would have been 4 if one of us had been killed.
My older siblings used to take me around.
Yeah, I think that's a huge responsibility to put on a child, to put them by, when you've got trucks going past with all the kind of noxious loads and things. I don't think if they were my children, I'd be prepared to take that risk.
Okay.
Well, I think that's not a bad answer, but maybe we need some parent parks as well for very small children. But thank you.
But I must say, great submissions from people. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I thought yours was fantastic. Nicole, thank you, Ellen. Really, really great.
Okay. And Nicole, you have a question or a comment?
I have 3 questions. My first question was based off what Steve said. So Steve, I'm sorry if I've taken your question, but we both want the answer, which is, what is the plan for moving those buses and camper vans that are currently parked down there? Because once you put in, that's still going to be an unlimited area. What's the plan for making sure that it's not taken up by those big buses and the camper vans that are there? So that's my first question. My second question is there a plan for assisting the Yacht Club with their national events? So they currently hold quite a number of national events and bring thousands of people into the Wellington area. So what's the plan for making sure that they can still actually come to Wellington and be able to participate without the parking restrictions of 3 hours? And my final question is what is the plan for the allowing of those national competitions full stop? Because if we start encroaching onto the area where the Coast Guard is for the parking, which is generally full during the summer period where the boaties depart Evans Bay. If we start encroaching into that area, then what is the plan for the boaties using Evans Bay to launch their boats if that parking area is taken up by others that are going to use it? And in regard to the Haitaitai Beach area, Russell, you know, I've got 4 children, but 3 were under the age of 3. And the other one, the eldest one, was only a couple of years older. There was absolutely no way that I could have left an elder sibling, especially when you had a 1, 2, 3-year-old and a 6-year-old as well. It was just too much for those kids. And to actually go and park all the way down where the Coast Guard is, that's quite a tramp with your picnic, your belongings, the toys and everything for 4 children. So while I appreciate you're trying to find a solution, I think we need somewhere that's going to be a bit closer. And I also take on board, Councillor Free, you had suggested that we have parent parking. There's actually quite a lot of parents that go down there. So it's, you know, also I think about the elderly. And as it had been mentioned, those that come down to the beach but actually can't get back up again. I don't know if we can get public transport up that hill, but it would be great if the council could actually look at some way of getting people back up onto Mount Vic, especially the elderly. And maybe the parents with the small children could get on public transport to go down there. I think, but I think it is something that we do need to address and think about. So those are my 3 questions and points. Thank you.
I can't answer those right now, but I've written all of that down and it will be fed back to staff. And I know we've actually got Ollie here as well. I mean, this is the point of these discussions too, is stimulating suggestions that we don't necessarily have the answers to, but good suggestions. Laurie.
Kia ora, yes, I would like to thank you all for your submissions this morning. It's really useful, especially from you that really use the space. Ken, just describing your quick dip, like that's a pleasure, human pleasure. But what I did want to get a sense of, and Nicole, you actually really, hit the button on the head with who is using, so just to answer one of your questions, Nicole, we have recently put in a parking policy which will enable the hierarchy of people to use the space that need to. And while I can't dive into the exact detail of that right now, that's what it's designed for, because we can see that the space has got more requirements on it. And so I think the big thing is the question I have for the group that use the space, who's using the parking spaces that are allocated now? So the description of the party buses, was interesting, but can you just flesh that out a little bit more, just so we can understand who's using that?
That area between, I guess, the Coast Guard and Cobham Drive, at the moment, I see that as being used mainly by the camper vans and the buses, particularly because no one else can get in there because they're there. So people are moving a little bit further down. I don't think that area itself, right at the Coast Guard, from the Coast Guard to Cobham Drive, is used very much by the residents or by the people that are wanting to use the water, because of course they can currently go into the marina area to park up. So I think that's essential, because that's obviously used quite a lot. That frees up that space between the Coast Guard and the and Cobham Drive. What my concern is that would appear to be the only area that has unlimited parking, and currently it's being used by these buses and the camper vans in an unlimited way. And if we have parks taken away from around Evans Bay Parade, leaving only that area as unlimited, then the concern is, can people actually access it if people are using it permanently as a place to stow their buses? Because I think that is an area that we can use the parking. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. That was useful.
I think one of the things we could do is actually, if we marked parking bays, then those would be too long to fit in a standard parking bay and therefore be eligible to be ticketed. So yeah, I mean, there's ways that we have to think about things like that. And I agree with you, they shouldn't be there. It's too special a space. And presumably those people are able-bodied, most of them. So yeah, and I've noticed it as well.
Steve, did you have something? Sorry, I saw your hand
yeah.
go up.
So which
Oh,
hand?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hi.
Tim.
Yeah, I just want to support Nicole. That's my read of it as well. That there's a lot of camper van use, and I walk past the same camper vans and the same buses, nearly every day. So they're not just drop-ins who might be using the camper van park and are parked there for some reason. These are semi-permanent, largely empty camper vans. So they're not people living in them. They're just where they've deposited them. I just wanted to reinforce my question during my submission around, can you have a look at what the use type is for that Coast Guard parking area potential, and whether you can follow up with Evans Bay about the way the boat parking is currently used, because I'd estimate a third of that is currently occupied by rotting boats, and they might better make better use of that space, and that would solve one of their big issues that they brought up in their submission, which is where do we park our people when we're setting up boats, because they won't have any space. So just to note those, please. Thank you.
Just to make a small response to that, I do know the staff are working with Marina to see if there is a way of better managing that space, and so that we can get some extra parking out of that space. But obviously there are a lot of competing needs. Yeah. Now I've seen Nicole's hand up, but someone else had a hand. Russell and then Nicole again. If you do use the icons, it does make it a bit easier. They're under the reaction symbol at the bottom of your screen, if it's anything like mine.
Yes, I've tried that. It just has a thumbs up.
Yeah.
It just has a thumbs up. Is that what you want?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Oh, that would do. Any kind of symbol will do, and I'll notice it.
Okay. I just related an experience I had yesterday. I was sitting outside the Hataitai beach, and there were very few cars parked outside that beach. But what did happen while I was there is about 3 people came along, young men, parked their cars. Another of their mates came along, picked them up in a van. They left their cars there. Presumably they were there for the working day, and the guy with the bigger van took these folks off to work somewhere. I wasn't sure where they were working. So there were 3 vehicles that were being brought down there and left there. I don't know how long they were there. I didn't stay for long, but presumably they were there for some hours. So that's the kind of thing that would disturb people who wanted to use that beach. And I can see why we've got to find some solution to allow people to come to the beach. Public transport was mentioned by somebody. I think that might be a great idea. And Nicola, you could perhaps put your children on a bus and get down there. That might be the better way.
My children are in their 40s now, but my son can ride a bike perfectly well.
Good.
And my daughter's in London.
Oh, fine. Okay, well, next time, for your daughters and whatever, your children.
Cool. Nicole.
Thank you. I just have one more question, which is, who's paying for this? Is it land transport, or is it ratepayers? Is it a combination of both? And if ratepayers are involved in the payment of this, at what percentage of the cost are ratepayers paying?
I would have to actually check the proportions, but I do know Waka Kotahi, this is being shared between Waka Kotahi and the council. Some of our cycleways, they funded very generously, either 66% or 75%. That was under the Urban Cycleway program. I think that scheme's now come to an end, but it is at least 50%. I can find out for you, Nicole, and email you.
Thank you.
The standard percentage is generally 51% Waka Kotahi and the rest are council. But having said that, we have to meet, to get that funding, we have to meet certain requirements. So which means that sometimes our cycleways are quite over-engineered to meet those requirements.
It is it's always a question that we need to be transparent about. So I will find out and let you know. Ellen, you have your hand up.
I just wanted to relate a story from my youth, going into ancient history. I was a family of 5 kids, and the only way we ever got to a beach was if we got there ourselves. We didn't have a car, so we used to go to the beaches that you could get to by the bus. So Mum used to take us to Lyell Bay and Island Bay, which is the freezing beaches. Occasionally we'd go to Oriental Bay. So the bus idea works because you knew you could get there and back, even though we probably have to catch 2 buses to get back home. But I just thought that was worth, there's a situation we've got now, but we need to imagine as well what could be better, and how we want to get around in a better way. So I think it's quite important to not just what's there now, but what we want.
Yeah, actually, when I was young, and I'll show my age, we used to sell soft drink bottles at local dairy to get enough money to go on the bus from Newtown down to Oriental Bay by ourselves when we were about 9 or 10, and we were good swimmers, or Mum probably wouldn't have let us, but yeah, same. Mum had no time to take us.
Start. What happened to you? Where did it all go wrong?
Oh, Nicola, I've become soft in old age. But I happen to love Haitatai Beach because it is actually a little bit warmer. The water's very still, and because it's an inner harbour beach, it actually warms up quite nicely. And now that there are no ducks fouling it, it's really quite pleasant. So it is an important beach, and I think we do need to really find some good solutions. Now I've got, gosh, I'm sorry, I don't know who came first, but it was probably Laurie, and then Nicole, and then I saw Steve's hand go up. And we've got about another 8 minutes or so before we're meant to finish.
I'll keep it brief. I just wanted to touch base on the shared cycleway and hearing from, experienced walkers and bikers in our city that this isn't working so well. Is there a form of international best practice, and are we, in your view, are we following that as a council? Kia ora, Ellen.
So there is a national New Zealand guidance called the New Zealand Pedestrian and Planning Design Guide, which is it's actually made by Land Transport Safety Authority way before NZTA and Waka Kotahi came along. And that clearly says, and I was just looking at it last night, that shared paths are mostly benefit cyclists because it might give them a facility that they wouldn't otherwise have. And so, and mostly in our experience, I've just had something through from somebody from the Blind Foundation, who I could read you a little bit of what she says, that our agency, which is the Blind Foundation, does not support shared paths in many environments due to the conflicts our clients experience. The proposals for higher speeds with cyclists and electronic devices don't work with pedestrians. And also too much signage can become visual clutter on the ground, so people get confused about what's happening. So it's very clear that most people with disabilities do not like shared paths. They do not feel safe on them. We find that most older people do not like shared paths. They do not feel safe walking on them. And children who don't usually get a voice at all are not safe on shared paths because of the speed that the vehicles are travelling. As far as I know, cyclists don't like them either. So internationally, there's not even a debate about this. In Europe, I don't think they even consider shared paths. So we're kind of weird like that. We're in the Australian and US camp that think that squishing up the ways you want people to get around is a better idea than making proper separated places for them.
Okay, thanks. Good points. Nicole.
Thank you. And this is my final point because we are running out of time. But I just think that it's important for the council to consider, and I expect you already have, that in the area that I live, there is a massive problem with sewage pipes overflowing and going into people's homes, has been for as long as the 21 years that I've been here, and nothing has been done to fix it. The people in my area are really upset, not about the bikes, but about the pipes. And I did a throwaway statement in my submission saying pipes, not bikes, because the people in this area are basically saying that is of more importance to them at the moment. I'm not suggesting anything at all, but that it is a position that many ratepayers within this area feel are being ignored and have been for a very long time in favour of the bike path, which would not be a priority for their ratepayer money in that sense. So I just wanted to let you know what I've been hearing in this area as well from those who have sewage going into their homes.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, I think it was Steve. Was I right in that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just in quick response to Nicole, look, we all live in our own little bubbles and our own little groups of communities. The one I operate in is dying for proper cycleways, literally in some cases, you know. So this is why we have to find a way to both stop the sewage and find bike routes, because there is a large community of cyclists who are desperate to be safe and to be able to travel safely. Look, my question was a cheeky one, right? As a user of the beach, what I've noted over the years, and I've lived in that area about 15 years, is that there's less and less beach every year because of this thing called climate change. Can you bring a barge around with a bunch of sand? I don't care if it's golden sand from Tasman or wherever, but we need more sand. At high tide, there is about 4 or 5 feet of beach. You know, you lay straight and your feet are in the water, and I'm not kidding. So just put that on a list somewhere and think about, you know, whether you can dredge some sand from somewhere and drop it on our beautiful beach, because, you know, this will make it more accessible and more, you know, more desirable for people to make their way to it, and let's have enough beach for them to enjoy. Sorry, I told you it was cheeky, but there is an issue there.
That's great. I think that's probably quite a good one to finish on. Is there anyone else with the last comment?
Could I just add
Ellen?
to that the Cobham, along Cobham Drive, that is the Kilburnie people's beach. How about dumping some sand there so that those people can have easy access to a beach too, if we're going to import sand from somewhere?
Did anyone notice that we've got a new little beach, or a couple of really quite nice little beaches as a result of what was done along Cobham Drive, especially down where the camper vans park? There actually was made quite a little special area, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I've seen
it is rather lovely.
I've seen the campers using it. It's great.
Yeah. Okay,
I think, Sarah, though, that we all know that the Cobham Drive budget was completely blown. So,
yes, it was.
And some of the work done was not what we understood to be done. So good to see some extra little beaches, but also we had a lot of extra costs, which took funding away from other things.
It is true that we had some very big unexpected costs there, and I didn't know we were getting a lovely little beach. But anyway, you live and learn. Thank you for that, Diane. I think that's all. I just wanted to be practical. I think that's actually all we've got time for. So, and I can see our advisors there probably nodding at me that we need to say goodbye to each other. Thank you very much. It's actually been a really useful conversation from my point of view, and I hope everyone's got something out of it. So
thanks everyone. I learned a lot.
Kia ora tātou. Thanks everybody. That was really great for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks, so Sarah, do we press the other link button now?
One of the three people chairing the 3 separate meetings that we're having. We're running this as everybody gets a chance to have their say, and then we will have a chance for open sort of questions. Anyone can ask anyone a question at the end of that session. We are going to have to be a little bit ruthless with time if we're to allow that enough time for that kind of exchange of ideas at the end, which is really valuable. So I've got I'll probably put my hand up if I think that we need to wrap up. Please don't be offended. You'll still have a chance to make 1 or 2 points, but it might just be that we need to keep things moving. So Andy, you are first, followed by Peter, Jonathan, Duncan, and then I've got down Matt. So we'll make it in that will be the order. Welcome, Andy. Oh, you need to unmute. And I'll just take the opportunity to welcome Councillors Calvert, Boone, Young, and we've also got our Ngāti Toa rep, Liz, with us.
Okay, I'm on mute now. You can hear me?
Yes.
All right, greetings everybody, and thank you for the opportunity and allowing me to participate in this debate or discussion or the lodging of my complaints. Just to let you know offhand, I'm not opposing the cycleway. I'm all for it. We do have to follow the trends and look towards the future of some 30 or 40 years in order to get things happening from now. two issues, or the main issue is, well, one issue is that if you look at Stats New Zealand, we are in 30 years' time going to have an aging population. 50% of our population will be 65 plus. We look at our weather conditions and we look at our terrain. Cycleways are not suitable, but we're going to put up with them. My main concerns around the Greater Point area is that you are actually removing 6 car parks from outside the Greater Point Cafe. Now, in discussions with some of the councillors and some representatives like Chris Wilkinson, who says it's only going to increase your business, this is totally wrong. There's no way it's going to increase business by removing car parks. I have been in the cafe industry since '93, one of the pioneering cafes at Greater Point, which is still operating these days, the Brooklyn Grill and Bar, which is still operating under the name of Pigeon, and another one in town that I think just recently closed after 18 years. And I can assure you that by removing car parks, we are not going to gain customers. The reason why they want to move the car parks is they're going to want to put another pedestrian crossing in. So we're going to have 3 pedestrian crossings within less than a kilometre right outside the Greater Point. I know that the council has all our heart in their disposal, or at their disposal, wishing that we all do well, and some do, but by choking up the system or the roads in Wellington, we're not actually achieving anything. We have to look at alternative car parks, and when discussing this with councillors, all we get is it's not in our scope of work. We are removing 86 or 88 car parks from along that area, and the residents, and I may say that a lot of them even aren't aware what's happening yet, are quite blasé to the whole situation. They will wake up one morning and realise they've got no car parks left and wonder why and how that has happened. You have ample room over there to create car parks in order to facilitate an easier parking area around there. I mean, as a business owner for years, my duty was to protect my customers in order for them to keep coming back. As I view the City Council, your job is to save and protect your clients or your customers, which are all us rate-paying citizens. And I'm in a few levels of rate-paying citizen, commercially and housing-wise. So you've got to protect us. You've got to protect the people that pay you to be where you are. You know, by removing car parks, and I can give you a lot of examples, around Basin Reserve, you removed all the car parking facilities on the left-hand side. When you get down from Kent Terrace, those businesses closed and left. You are slowly choking the city. So create your car parks, yes, but don't compound that on the people that are trying to provide a living or making a living. I don't make a living out of the Greater Point anymore. I own some property down there. I was there for 10 years. I know firsthand, by removing the car parks, and we've been promised that they weren't going to be removed by Hilary Fowler, that they won't be removed. And yes, they are going to be removed to create another pedestrian crossing that we do not really need. Mm-hmm. I think that's about all I say right now, but we'll pick it up, I suppose, later on. But thanks for the opportunity.
So thank you, Andy. You've made your points really clearly, and I'm sure there will be, questions coming to and fro later on.
All right.
Right. So we'll move on to Peter. Peter, you're from an organisation, so you are allowed a little more than 5 minutes, probably a little between 5 and 10. Oh, you'll need to unmute.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes.
Hi. I don't normally do this sort of thing. I like to fly below the wire and no one knows who I am. I've been a Miramar Martian since about 1973. I was a little kid. And I'm just really concerned about what's going to happen to Evans Bay area by doing some of the changes as proposed. I'm not against the cycleway. It needs to be completed. That's where everything's moving, so it needs to be done. I'm just worried about the parks being removed from the housing side, and compared to when you go around the rest of the bays, you see where there's housing, you've got parks. So I'm really concerned that we're going to take too many parks away, which is going to affect houses being done up. You're going to have to put out cones all the time out of a main route, which Wellington has to breathe by to the airport. And those buildings won't be able to be done up until they're basically derelict, because they want to be able to afford to put flats on them. Who's not a big developer. And plus people parking, you've got to think about elderly people getting around, stopping, trying to get to the beach, all those sort of things. It's too far away where some of the crossings are proposed and the parking. I'm not really too concerned about the cycleways and that. I'm not affected by Andy and things he's thinking about, but I'm sort of concerned that the size of the cycleway is going to be quite large, quite wide in some places around Haitaito Beach, where the cycles we have to move slowly to deal with the pedestrians and elderly, etc. In summer. And I can't see why some of those areas cannot be closed up around the bends to slow the traffic down of bikes. We slow cars down for traffic for safety. Some bikers need to slow down as well in some areas. And it's good that the peloton comes around early in the morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and they move over, let the cars get around where they can. It's really good. But there's also the rogue ones that are going to ride during the day and hoon around, and people are going to get hurt eventually. So I have some issues with that. I would like it to be looked at a bit more. Okay, I'm also a member of Evans Bay. First time I was down there in 1976 as a little kid. A lot of people sail, do things which you in town wouldn't normally worry about or see. There's a certain culture to the area which is built around the bay. I'm worried that the parking taken away is going to affect the club, but also it's going to affect people trying to get to the boat sheds, etc. It needs to be looked at a bit more. But I can see how the roading engineers would just look down on the club and see the car parking area and think they've got enough, which they do half the time, but not for major regattas which carry on around when you're getting up to 120 cars and trailers there, which all cram up, but that area is needed for boat rigging. Just all those sort of areas and things got to be thought about a bit more, but not against the general proposal. Evans Bay is quite a good area. It's just going to show up above me. I'm right up on the hill. Evans Bay there. Evans Bay is a great natural stadium for lots of boating activities, and I fear we're going to interfere too much and change the culture, especially of low economic people, socioeconomic people, being able to get access to sailing, learning to sail, people getting there with all their gear. Just want those things taken into consideration a bit more. I can say more. I don't really want to rattle on because there's other people got probably more invested interest who want to say things.
Thank you, Peter. I've written down some questions for later. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now I think we've got, instead of Jonathan, we've got Dan and Alex from Cycle Wellington. How do you want to split up your presentation? Do you want to do a little bit each, or?
Yeah, a little bit each.
Okay.
I'll let. Do you want to go first, Daniel, and just just give your input and interest in the area?
You're welcome.
Hi there. Thank you for having me this morning. It's sort of nice to be involved. I'm new to this sort of forum, but hopefully I have something important to contribute. So basically, my investment in this is I commute from the eastern suburbs every day, and sort of the cycle lane gives me a bit of hope that that commute's going to get a little bit easier and a little bit safer. So I guess at the moment, my main concern is that I have two options when I'm coming into town. One is through the Mount Victoria tunnel and the other is around the bays. And for me, this cycle lane that's proposed would be a really good viable alternative that lets me avoid that tunnel, avoid that bottleneck. And as you were saying before, cyclists do travel quite a bit quicker than pedestrians. And there is a safety thing there, and the Mount Vic tunnel is sort of an accident waiting to happen for cyclists. So to have a really good viable alternative and be able to go around the bays on my bike every morning in a safe manner would be really, really beneficial to me. And sort of on that note, I guess my main part for this would be to say that it'd be really important that the cycle lane is not a shared path with pedestrians. It needs to be a separated path. It needs to be protected from the road. But I'm really excited at that opportunity to be able to commute in sort of such an environmentally friendly way, safe way, and sort of a fun way as well. So yeah, hopefully we can move forward on that. Alex, do you want to take over?
Cool, thanks very much, Daniel. Yeah, thanks very much everyone for the opportunity to join in on this forum. We're really in supportive of this new path and really looking forward to connecting up what is, we think, going to be a substantially, world-class connection around our beautiful harbour. So yeah, we're really looking forward to this extra part of the Great Harbour Way. We really want that. It fixes this gap in the cycling network that's growing, and it'll improve quality of life for people walking, people on bikes, and just to some of what I would suggest misnomers that have been put out there, that the opportunity for people on bikes really depends on good quality infrastructure. There's massive potential for a much greater range of people to use bikes in Wellington, regardless of our topology, our weather, our age, age range. There's actually enormous opportunity for older people to make more cycling journeys. For example, in the Netherlands, where they have very good cycling infrastructure, the largest age group, or proportion of age journeys made by an age group is in the over 65s. So it's not an ageist thing to expect people will want to ride bikes into their old age. So yeah, as to reiterate what Dan touched on, we're not in favour of any shared paths. Shared paths are not going to support more people enjoying the area once they are there. So we need to maintain a really good walking experience, and to do that, it means making a really top-notch experience for people on bikes to be able to move through safely and separated. So yeah, I've got a note here that a seaside path around Niwa is a nice to have, but it's not a primary path. So it would be going out of the way a bit more than is probably necessary. And just to touch on a few other things that I guess technical things, connections to the high Taito roads. We just need to make sure that there's some provision there, which wasn't in the draft designs, how people can get over to Belvedere and Raro. I forget the other name, but those streets going up and into high Taito. E-bikes are flattened hills, so there are people that want to get over and up those hills on bikes. There's a lot of evidence around the world now that bike lanes are really good for local businesses, cafes and childcare centres. There's you know, it's just about providing a safe experience for people on bikes to access those, and the people will come. There's a whole lot more potential for more people to come and use an area by active modes than there are by cars. It's just physics, it's just geometry. More people fit, and we're excluding more people by not providing that safe way of traveling and healthy way of traveling. But we are empathetic of the parking needs, and we hope that the council has some creative means of making better use of off-street parking space as identified at the marina. If there's an overflow problem for major events, that's one thing, but surely we can be making much better use of that space, that, you know, excessive amount of parking that's there, that's underutilized, you know, make much better use of that underutilized space. So yeah, I think that's all I'd like to sort of just make sure we're connecting these networks. It's going to be great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Alex and Dan. Thank you. We're saving the questions till the end. I've written down a few. I'd like now to welcome Duncan. Hello, Duncan. Welcome. Are you representing an organisation? It's the Wellington Skateboard Association?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So what we're doing is we're allowing a little bit extra for organisations, but we are going to be trying to also allow enough time for conversation at the end. So I'm saying between 5 and 10 minutes if you're an organisation, but if you can keep more on the lesser side of that, that would probably be appreciated.
Great, thank you. And apologies for being late today. Got distracted with other work. So I think I can keep it hopefully a lot shorter than the 10 minutes, and just really touch on some of the things that I think Alex was saying in regard to cycling and the space in general, and that's that one of the key purposes is making things as inclusive as possible and making it a space that can be used by everyone, so that it's functional for cycling, for pedestrians. You know, there will obviously be cars using the road and parking that's required, and so trying to make the spaces as functional and inclusive as possible. And one of the things that we would like to see added into these types of spaces is using the environment in a way that doesn't just have, say, a flat road that's separated into two, where, you know, you have cycling on one side and then you have walking on the other side. There's things that can be done and added that would make it more interesting and appealing, and that could be used by cyclists, skateboarders, scooter riders, but also visually appealing as well. And if you look at, I don't know if you'll have all of the submissions in front of you, but I think a really good example of the way in which something can be, the way that can be done is the picture we've added into the submission of the Napier waterfront, where there are these, it's a wide open spaced area, and there are these transitioned banks that are actually designed to be used for skateboarding and scooter riding, but the average passerby wouldn't necessarily know that. You know, they have a nice design to them. They have plants on top. They just fit into the environment in a way that is very visually appealing, but also very functional for people that want to use it for other things. And so we think there's a lot of potential for that type of thing to be added to the proposals. I think this is something that Alex was touching on as well in regard to cycling, is that there's a wide age range of people that undertake these activities, and so skateboarding is very much the same. You have going right through from young kids to adults, and a lot of people now using skateboards, especially longboards, for commuting. So it is something that that people would be commuting to and from work on, but also just as a recreational activity. And you'll see now a lot of, for instance, kids and parents going to skate parks together. And so it's a very family orientated activity as well. And so when we're looking at spaces like Cog Park, there's real potential for extra elements to be added that can be used for and designed specifically for skateboarding, that will encourage greater use of those areas, particularly with families, so that they might be going there to, to have a picnic in the park, but can also, use these obstacles for skateboarding. So there's some real potential there, just to make things more interesting and more usable, and more, provide greater sort of diversity and interaction for those areas. And that's really what we'd like to see. Yeah.
Thank you. I did see your illustrations. They were very interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Duncan. We'll come back to, I'm sure there are lots of questions. We will come back to that. Now, last, I think, up is Matt. Welcome, Matt, from the Kupe Canoe Club. Yes.
Thank you.
Over to you. Welcome.
Thank you. Just in terms of Kupe Canoe Club, we've had a presence at Cog Park in that location for well over 60 years. And I myself have been a resident at Taitai for 25 years, so very regular user of the area. I think what's really important, and we would all agree that the best asset for Wellington City is its harbour. But what's really important to so many is the ability to access out onto the harbour. And the Greta Point location is actually completely unique. It is the best point in the whole of the harbour for kayaking and other recreational activities. And the Hataidai Beach is incredibly popular for people learning to kayak. The canoe club that's included in amongst the cadet centre there has probably about 150 boats stored. And our members can't all use public transport to get there. The timing and such, bringing kayak gear so we're quite reliant on private motor vehicles to access the area. We've already got a major problem with car parking in the area, or lack of. A number of people park cars there near permanently, including trailered boats and such in the public streets. I do accept that you're going to go to a 3-hour time frame, but we really think that parking is a major issue in the area, which is severely impacting the ability for our members to access onto the harbour. So look, we're fully supportive of cycle lanes. Many of our members will be heavy users of those facilities, and so completely committed to the concept. Our concern is really just around the implementation of it and the resulting loss of car parks that are proposed, and the impact that will have both on the use of the unique area of Greta Point, but equally too, the Hataidai Beach. I think that's sort of been overlooked in terms of how popular that is in the weekend. With a northerly wind blowing, that is actually an incredibly popular beach and is vital for so many residents to access for a summer swim and such. So Oriental Bay, great, very popular, but if the northerly's blowing, that's pretty unfavourable conditions, and Hataitai is a very sheltered beach. Our concern is that both for the residents and for others that travel into the area, that lack of car parking is really going to impact an ability to use both the beach and the other recreational opportunities in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, that's very interesting. Right, I am opening it up for questions. Now I'm just going to ask, if you do have a question, it helps me if you can use the reaction button. Down the bottom of your screens, there's a reaction button which has got waving, thumbs up, but the one that we normally use for questions is the raise hand at the end. It doesn't strictly matter. If you just want to wave at me, that will work as well, but it just helps me see who's put the hand up first and manage the meeting a little more efficiently. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't work like that. So who wants to start? Oh, we've got Laurie, Councillor Foon.
Kia ora, and thank you everybody for coming in this morning. It's really good to hear these experiences especially of people that are using the space. I have two questions, but I'll just start. Andy, at the beginning of your talk, you talked about someone who'd promised that you wouldn't lose the car parking. I just missed who that was and when that was, and can you just flesh out a little bit, or did I mishear?
No, you didn't mishear at all. I stand by what I said, and I think I said Hilary Fowler promised us that we won't be losing any car parks from around that area. And there's a lot of people that spoke correctly and about the area, especially the cadets there, which I didn't touch that. I mean, everybody's got their little section running down, and they're very correct in saying, and I myself used to fish there as a 8-year-old. We used to live, and ever since we moved into Greater Point 2010, when we opened the cafe, we were onto the council to provide more car parking. Would never happen. They said they'll police their car parks. They don't police their car parks. That's another issue that's totally on the side where they promise they will police them. Fix the wharfs up, create a little park for the kids, and they said no. But they have no problems, or you have no problems creating a dog park and extending it. We're asking for a slice off that little dog park so you can create more car parks, and all we're getting is it's not in our scope of work. And another point, another little issue is mixed cycling and pedestrian. It's working around Oriental Bay. So the people who are opposing it, I've got nothing against the cycleway. Put it up. I've said them all along. Put 4 lanes. It's not going to bother me. Just don't remove the car parks. You're actually choking and killing the city. And I think, Laurie, I've known you since 1993 when I opened Cafe Neo in Willow Street. We were the in-place, we were on the in-flights, we were everywhere. And we do know how to run a successful businesses, and we have been successful. So in the aspect of the car parking facilities, I think I know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of people that are going to be anguished and upset about the whole situation. But from what my understanding is, and the way you all gather together, it is a foregone conclusion. You will do what you have to do, won't you? And I think both, it's on record, both Andys have said, do what we do and the people will get used to it. Don't worry what the people say. Sorry to say so, but anyway. Yes, it was Hilary Fowler that promised us we won't be losing any car parks.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Andy. And good. I didn't actually recognise you thank you for raising that. That's awesome. Good to see you. I'll let you go, Mayor, but Deputy Mayor, but I did have one more question after you.
Okay, so I just was going to actually drill down a little bit into some of these needs that have been identified. So actually a question for you, Peter, and another submitter in the earlier session talked about the regattas and how there's a really increased need for parking when you have those events. And my question is, how often do they happen? And, can you just tell us a little bit more about when and where and how often? Okay,
well, Rowdy Lathan's the best person to speak to about that, and I think he's got details in his submission. Generally what happens is Evans Bay's having a low season this year. Sometimes they have 4 national competitions within a year, which tends to bring double-handed 420 boats, which is a youth class training for Olympians to move up to, say, Olympic boats. Sometimes you'll get, say, 30 boats. You will have 2 cars coming, so there'll be 60 cars. There'll be volunteers coming to work on the day, which need somewhere to park. There'll be safety boats coming as well. They also bring their own ribs and coaches, so you can actually have up to probably, it's possible to have, say, 25 extra ribs and boats in the area, which need somewhere to stay at night. But there's room for them to stay because the boats are packed up and pushed to one side. But during the day, those cars tend to park at the other end, but you still, need extra car parking. So you can have an extra 120 people come to a regatta.
Okay, right. And it could be sort of like 4 times for the nationals and maybe some other smaller events or something.
But also you have the weekends are sailing through winter. There's a winter season for sailing. In summer that you have a lot of people coming to sail on other people's boats. So you will have, if you get a keeler going out in a race, sometimes they'll take out 6 people. So you can get, say, an extra 3 cars per boat turning up, wanting to go out racing.
Okay.
These people also bring a lot of money down, and all these people come from all over the country and sometimes from overseas to race in Wellington.
Oh, cool. That's useful. And I will have a look at the submission when you said that set out in a bit more detail. Laurie, should we go back to you for another question?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. My next question is for Daniel. Daniel, so just getting a bit of an understanding of your habits. So how long have you been riding and into town? Do you have a community of friends? Are you noticing a change in the way that people are commuting or getting around? And is that community, do they have a preference in the way they like to get to town?
Yeah, certainly. So I guess I moved out to the eastern suburbs in June this year. So I've only been out there for 6 months, or less than, sorry. Is there a community? Yes, definitely. I'm a master's student at Victoria University, and most students around me here either rely on public transport, cycling, or walking to get into the city. And I guess it almost turns back to that increased rent prices as well, because it's forcing us further and further away. So yes, there is an increasing need for this. And yeah, more and more people are turning to bikes. I mean, I'm known myself to sort of be fixing up and flipping bikes all the time. So I've had friends coming to me asking for bikes in recent weeks as we come to summer as well. And yeah, there is a demand for it. I live in a flat of 5 people, and every one of us commutes into town daily. So, and we all use active or public transport methods.
Thank you. If no one else has got a question, I've got another one. So to the Coupe Canoe Club, that was Matt. You talked about the 3-hour time frame, and we also had another submitter say that you need a reasonable amount of time for boating. It's not just 3 hours, it can sometimes be a lot longer. Do you think that 3 hours time frame is long enough? Of course, the longer it gets, the less turnover, and that's an issue too, but
yeah, no, 3 hours would be a workable solution. But I'm concerned that, well, that hasn't been managed well in the past, despite requests to council. But you rightly raised the point about the dog park, the traffic that generates and the parking demands as well. You know, why that's located right there, I'm not so sure. That doesn't need to be as close to the harbour as it is. It would be nice to promote the recreational activities that relate directly to the harbour as a priority. Look, I would think 3 hours is a workable solution, but it's the total number of lost parks that's the issue.
Yeah, okay. Now, I didn't probably explain, but all of the submitters are actually able to ask questions of each other or of us. So it's a conversation, it's not an interrogation. Right. So don't feel shy, just go for it. So Peter, I saw you wave a hand there.
I would just like to add on to Andy's bits and pieces that there are a lot of people who actually do not belong to clubs who use the harbour and actually use it more often and daily than sailors. And there's always someone going out on a canoe at some times, no matter how bad the weather is, there's always one of them doing it. And there's a lot of people who won't submit, and there's new sailing coming on board, what they call foil sailing coming. These other activities which are coming new And you've got to allow for those people like the canoeists. They're not actually part of the clubs. They don't want to be. They're more like skateboarders, and they don't want to be part of a club that's sort of anti the establishment sometimes. And I don't think sometimes we think about those people. We need to allow a bit more for that as well. I think it's very similar to like the skateboarding idea of having an area. I think that's a great idea to add on to. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you, Peter. Alex.
Yeah, kia ora. I really wanted to just pick up on other means or methods that council might have been looking into alleviate some parking concerns. That people do need to arrive into the area by cars in certain circumstances or with certain needs. And to Andy's point about them enforcing the parking rules that might have been applied, just that there's an appreciation of if you are using timed or any rules around parking, if there's a need to review the capacity to enforce, might be worth looking into. And yeah, as part of that, to look into more timed parking, like loading zones or like drop off, so P5 or P10 in those really valuable destinations for people to arrive or to pick up someone. If there's space for making those kinds of efficient turnover of use of cars in those locations, we'd be in support of that, because it's increasing the access for the people who need to arrive and leave by those means. But yeah, obviously it shouldn't compromise people's ability to travel through and arrive in healthy and climate friendly ways. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Diane, and then I've got Andy. I've seen your hand, and I think actually Matt, were you waving as well? Somebody else? Anyway, Diane and then Andy. Diane, you need to unmute.
Yeah. My question is for all the participants. Obviously we've heard lots of different views in the consultation, and then council will go away and synthesize all that and try and come up with a solution. But I wonder whether there's for something like this, which is quite relatively complex, because we have many users of the area, obviously need to be able to enable people to travel through it safely, but then also it has users. I just wonder whether there's whether council in these type of circumstances should be really looking at having a working group with different representatives from the community to try and work out where compromises could be made. Or do you see that sort of basically, the best way is just really for the council to make a decision? Because I'm just feeling that I'm not seeing an opportunity for parts of the community have all got very valid points, but actually trying to find the compromises through this, which there will have to be. So just throwing that out there.
All right, well, that's a challenge. I'll let Andy have his point, and then there might be some people who want to pick up on that, Diane.
Diane's issue, very good, very valid. I'll get back to Alex. I think we all agree from everything that I hear that the major concern is the parking. I don't see anybody overriding the cycleway. Let's keep the cycleway. I have no issues with that. Nobody else has, but we all have the issues with the parking. You do have the power to create more parking. You have the power to remove the parking, so create more parking. Can that be an issue? Can we look at that? And as you say, dog park is good, make it smaller, push it back, put some more parking down there, create parking for people to use the facilities that were given to us, that other people thought before you decided to remove them, reinstall them, let people go have access to the area, summertime round Haitaira Park there, or the beach there is chock-a-blocker. You know, we can't remove the rights to the people to go and enjoy themselves. And there is a big difference also when we're talking about cycleways between commuters, and this is also for Alex and Dan, commuters and recreational cyclists. Commuter cyclists don't use cycleways. They do 40 kilometers an hour on the road, and they don't have to use the cycleway. So either enforce every cyclist to use the cycleway, since you're creating so many cycleways, enforce them to use them, and leave the road to the drivers. You know, there's big difference there. And also when it comes to safety, why in Oriental Bay you've mixed them both together? And then we have Diane on one side saying the safety and the issues of speeding cyclists, and then on the other side we have the recreational cyclists. So these are all points that obviously someone's got to take in. But the most important, as we're listening here, is car parking. Please.
So we do have very good staff who do listen and try to find the middle ground. It isn't easy because, I mean, even in this kind of conversation, which is the whole point of this conversation, is understanding how complex this issue really is. And I think Diane alluded to it. Part of what we're trying to get from these forums is really drilling down to where the little, you know, where the sticking points are for people. And then our staff will do what they absolutely do what they can. I did have a question. I agree with you, it's about parking, but the other big issue I've actually heard today is about the shared path nature. That's been raised as an issue in our previous forum as well by Ellen, who is a Living Streets advocate, that's a walking group advocate. And then I've heard it raised too by the cyclists. So I've got a question for either Dan or Alex. You did talk about how shared paths don't work. Are you saying the kind of shared path that we've got, that we've already installed from Point Jerningham to Niwa, the one that's already there, would you describe that as a shared path? Does that work? I'd just like some feedback because I'm not quite sure what we're talking about. Or are we talking about the current situation which we've got at Evans Bay, which is quite a narrow bit without any particular separation for walkers or cyclists? I'd just like to understand a little more about your concerns.
Yeah, I guess I'm happy to jump in on that. The thing for me, I guess, a shared path is like passing on the frustration. So people in cars don't like when cyclists are on the road because it forces them to slow down, and if it forces an obstruction. A shared path is sort of a similar thing. For the cyclist, has that same frustration with the walker that's walking in the middle of the path and they're going 20 kilometers an hour quicker. It's the same frustration. We're all trying to get from point A to point B, and sort of being in those channels at the right speeds. It's quite important to do that safely. I guess the current path that there's not too bad in terms of the level that it's shared. I'm not sure about around there, but I know the Cobham Drive path, I find it frustrating that there's no cyclist signs along the footpath there, but there's no pedestrian signs along the cycle path. And actually significant numbers of pedestrians just walk down the cycle path regardless of whether it's separated or not. So implementing the right signage and the right sort of design features along that to differentiate whether it's separated or not, just so people know what's the purpose of each path is, super important. I don't know if Alex has anything to add on that.
Yeah, a couple of points just to be really clear. The shared paths that when we talk about that are the traditional things or the historical ones, like you've got there already. Where this project is going, it's a shared footpath, and yeah, we would reiterate that for Ellen, for walkers, that we need to get people who are moving with a device in an active way out of the way of people walking, so that stays accessible for families, for kids walking and enjoying the area, being in the area more. The new facilities are fantastic. for people on bikes anyway, they have a delineation. There's an understood space for people on bikes, and that's what I'm saying is like extending what you've been doing from Point Jerningham and around here and connecting up to what you've already done on Cobham Drive is just going to be world class. And I would invite another sort of, I think I put this in our submission, but invite more of the, to be able to extend the treatment that you've achieved on Cobham Drive, more planting, and making it really nice. Beautifying it in a way is a good opportunity there, I think. And using that, you've got a beautification opportunity for that delineation. And I'd also just like to point out that we would like to see we're not exactly, we didn't ask for the shared nature of Oriental Bay. That's just a historical, that's again a historical shared path treatment. And we would ultimately like to see full separation all the way around there so that people enjoying the spaces can buy foot when they arrive. So it's not like we want that gap either. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. That helps clarify it. Got Diane and then Duncan.
Let Duncan go first, and then
Duncan.
Thank you. So I just wanted to touch a little bit on what you were just talking about with the shared pathways. As a regular dog walker from Oriental Bay to Greta Point each week, I agree that there are issues with the shared nature of it, like that it needs to be delineated a bit more clearly. Like there's no issue with cyclists using the pedestrian area, but there are always issues with pedestrians using the cyclist area, and I do see that causing issue. And I guess this is where I can sort of push our agenda a little bit, and that the sort of things we're recommending are that you can create little visual barriers, for instance, that aren't necessarily obstructions, but can be, small visual barriers that could also be used for things like skateboarding, but create something that people can see. Okay, well, this side's for walking, this side's for cycling, and there's those ways of being able to include things that are appealing to skateboarders in ways that are also functional for everyone else. And so I thought it was a useful time to be able to sort of talk to that point. And as we put in our submission, the area around Oriental Bay, when that was fixed up, you'll see that we've noted there are some very small alterations that could have been done at the time to make it highly functional for skateboarding without actually changing any of the key components of that what was done there. And so, I guess just fitting in with that whole theme you've been talking about of trying to get everyone, working together. We're not talking about changes to remove things. We're just talking about ways in which things can be altered to, to have everything that everyone wants, but also to add, things that will appeal to skateboarders and scooter riders, and which do make up a large portion of people that undertake recreational activities.
Thank you. That's really useful. I don't know, budget might be a problem, but ideally, I'd love it if we could take on some of your ideas.
And I
certainly
think,
be feeding it back to staff.
So and just to touch on that very briefly, is that I think if you look at what we've suggested as the alterations that could have been done to the work that was already done on Oriental Bay, you'll see that they're very small, minor alterations that wouldn't add much cost, but would have made that area very popular for skateboarding. So I think it can be done in a very cost-effective way. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. We are running to the end of the session, so I'm going to go to Diane, and then if anyone's got any last thoughts. And thank you in advance for all of your contributions. It's been really, really helpful and useful for us. And the staff, we've got a couple of staff online who will have been taking notes, and I've taken notes, and I'm sure some of the other councillors will have feedback to give to our designers. Diane.
Yeah, it's probably just a thought, but this project, I know it's been coming out of the transport team, but it's got a strong sport and rec element to it, and also there's the urban development with the and with the the likes of the cafe, those type of activities, those economic activities. So I just wonder, with these type of things, it should really be, even like from a council perspective, not so much driven from a transport perspective, but driven perhaps a bit more holistically, including our park sport and rec team, making sure that we've got that sort of economic lens as well, and just try, we can't please everyone all the time, but we do know that this is part of the Great Harbour Way, so we do know that that is, from a cycleway perspective, but we also need to make sure that all the other special things in our city, that we actually make sure that we also look after those as well. So for me, it's actually, this should not just be a transport project. This is actually broader than that. And I'd also like to see our transport team really, this is in partnership with the other parts of council that cover off this type of area, and probably more so than some of the other cycleways that we've done, but probably more to do in some of those areas, especially when they go through suburban business areas and sports areas. That's just a view. Sarah, you're on mute.
I was just going to say those are great points. This little piece has got so much going on. So we do need to have a very, very careful thought about where the compromises need to be made and what we, and making sure we're doing the best we can to protect all the interests and user groups while getting a great cycleway. So it's a challenge, but it can be done. Are there any last thoughts, Duncan? You've still got your hand up. Does that mean you want to say? It's just, okay. Is there anyone, somebody who hasn't said very much? Matt, do you have any last thoughts? You'll just need to unmute.
Sorry. I think it would be worth just exploring other opportunities for the parking, as was suggested around the dog park, or, there's some green space near the actual old cog and things like that. I think that does need to be explored. Look, at present, there's a bollard that provides access, and unfortunately you would have to cross the cycleway to get in there. But there is access through a padlock bollard. Maybe that could be automated to allow some car parking in there for members and such, to try and unlock. That's on existing reserve land on the seaward side. The challenge with that, you wouldn't want the public parking in there, because it would prove problematic with the number of crossings. But look, we need to do more to explore where those opportunities lie.
Okay.
I mean, if there can be some spillover car parking into Niwa in the weekends.
Right. Great ideas. Thank you, everybody. I think we really have run out of time, because we've now going to regroup as all of the council together. Elise, can you explain to us what the next stage is, what we do next?
Hi, yeah, so we have come to the end of this session in this particular room, so we can release all our public participants, and thank you very much for joining us. The rest of you councillors and Liz Kelly, you will be joining via the original link that you were in for the first meeting. I'll pop it into the chat quickly if that is easier for you just to click on. So you do need to leave this meeting and join the other one. But for the rest of you, thank you very much for joining today, and we have recorded all the sessions, so we will be adding this to our YouTube channel, and we'll send it out so you can watch back and see some of the other discussions from the other rooms as well, if you wish.
And just thank you again.
All right.
Thank you.
Kia ora, Namihi. Thanks for the kōrero.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Thanks, Elise.
So Elise, you're going to put it into the chat so we can just
Yes.
click through. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll drop that in there now, so that you can. Oh. Yeah, just a minute. I'm just here we go. There you go.
Boom. Thank you very much.
There you go.